Hi, my name is Robert Kothe, and recently my wife, myself, and some really good friends rented a 2-bedroom, 42-foot boat on the Erie Canal and had a fantastic time. It was a 5-day, 4-night trip east and west on the Erie Canal. In the process of us, from when we booked the boat to when we actually took the trip, we were constantly on YouTube, we were constantly on the internet, we were constantly on Google trying to glean a little more information about the cities that we're visiting, about the boat, about the rental company, about the trip itself, and other things. And we saw a lot of videos of people who, some people with drones in the air, and some people went under a lift bridge and through a lock, but you had to watch an awful lot of videos to piece things all together. Every now and then you'd get a glimpse of the inside of the boat, from the same company, and get a feel for what the cabins look like. Some people even took the time to do a tour, which was fantastic. The website of the boat company themselves has a virtual tour inside the boat, so that part's really not a mystery, but I thought that something like this would be extremely useful just to give you a clue as to what direction to go in as to planning and execution of a trip like this. There's a heavy emphasis on safety because safety is extremely important. These are real boats, they're not Disney rides on the track. I mean, it does take a certain amount of skill to dock them, lock them, and safely return them to the rental place. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you find it useful. Send me a comment and hope this makes a difference if you choose to do a canal trip like this. Okay, safety first. This is not a Disney ride. This is a real boat around real people, around people's real boats in real towns. It is not on a track. So if you are not comfortable driving something that's 42 feet long or 32 feet long by 12 feet wide, then now's a good time to pull your friend who's been boating all their life and say, hey, you guys want to go on a boat trip? I will talk about something called an engine with a left-hand screw, which simply means that when you put a boat in like this in reverse, it pulls to the left. Use this to your advantage. So when you dock and lock, if possible, check with the Lockmaster, for example, and say you want to pull in on the port-hand side, and they'll be probably fine with it. But when you put your boat in reverse, it'll actually pull the back of the boat towards the wall, not pull it away from the wall as compared to the other side. So use it to your advantage. So if you notice in this picture, we chose to wear life jackets when we were docking and locking. That's the time when people might be just leaning over or hanging off the side a little bit or using a pole to grab something and hold on to the canal lines on the side. Old Lock 60 actually has a little dock you can tie up to get out, look around, and check out Old Lock 60. So you need to know your boat physics. So let's talk about nav rules, also known as navigation rules. A word about bridges. When a working bridge has proper lighting, there should be a green light to tell you where the safest water is, and there should be boundary lights outside of that to show you the edge of where the safe water would have been. Do not consider an unmarked bridge span. When you're heading upriver, always remember red, right, return. Stay between the red and the green. In the case of this particular canal, most of the bridges that we went under had broken lights. So you have to imagine that the lights are still there. Look for the conduit in the middle that should be the green light, and then the conduits to the outside of them should be the red lights. Lift bridges and radio etiquette. When you see the lift bridge in sight, call on VHF radio channel 13. That's the channel that the bridge operators and lock operators monitor. Main Street Lift Bridge, Main Street Lift Bridge, Main Street Lift Bridge. This is the your boat name, requesting westbound passage. Now you want to be patient, because there might be between lift bridges, some people are responsible for multiple bridges and locks, or they might be doing something else. If they don't answer on the radio, Eventually, try them on a cell phone with the phone number provided to you by the boat company. Never go under any part of a lift bridge until the light turns green. Now, you might be surprised. Your lift bridge operator might want to discuss the rest of your day. They might be responsible for multiple bridges or multiple locks, but also they're going to communicate the information to other lock and bridge operators to keep the system flowing like air traffic controllers. Going through locks. The best locking tip I can add is to wear waterproof work gloves to protect your hands. Call the lock operator on channel 13, just like with the bridges. When you get the green light to enter, carefully pull in and line up with the ropes or cables hanging down. We already discussed life jackets, left-hand screw engines, green lights, and using the radio. So to add, if the lock has ropes hanging down, use your hands to control the rise and fall of the locks. If the lock has cables, you can use the boat dock line to loop around the cables and let them slide when you're going up and down. When releasing the line, do not let it drop in the water to potentially foul your propeller. Another side note, we figured out that the 32-foot rentals go faster than the 42-foot rentals at the maximum allowable RPMs. So, if you're in a 42, let the 32-footers go first so they do not have to pass you later. Getting around the canal system. If you're in the open water, you would use a system with latitude and longitude to give you the exact point in space where you physically are. But on the canal system, more reliable than that would be the mile markers. So knowing which mile marker you are to the decimal point, you would know along the narrow track, it's almost like you're on a floating train track, where you are. So the New York State Canal System is taking the time to provide websites and resources that give the mile marker from every buoy, every town, every bridge, everything you can imagine. I'm surprised turtles don't have mile markers, but just keep moving around. So use mile markers for planning and know that you go 6 miles an hour, but let's be conservative and pretend you go 5 miles per hour just so you have time to spare in case you're running late. When planning our trip, originally I thought I could just figure it all out and put it down on paper. But what I found what was more useful is to create planning tools so that on the fly during the trip we can make adjustments, know if we're on course, behind schedule, ahead of schedule, or have to start over it all entirely. So charts and graphs and extra tools made it a lot easier to make decisions on the fly. We made some charts and over time planning tools evolved. The planning was actually part of the fun. In fact, it was kind of rewarding to know that I was learning new skills and learning about new areas and really evolving, looking at maps and Googling and just doing all these sorts of things to be better aware with how things are done in the Erie Canal area. In this diagram, I call it the final plan, but the reality was, on day 5, we actually didn't sleep where we thought we were going to sleep. We went one town closer to get the boat back in time. Since we went with another couple, we used a shared Google document that I shared with everybody's email address, and everyone was able to make amendments, make changes, do their own research, look into towns, and go onto one standardized document and just type in their changes to improve what we were learning about the area that we. If you have the budget, buy a planning canal book. There's lots of information already available from people who created the canal system and maintain it. Know your mileage and math. A real fast video of the inside of the boat just to get you a good idea of what it looks like. The particular boat that we rented, the Lockmaster 42, has 2 bedrooms. Each couple had a separate bedroom. We each had our own separate bathroom. There is one shower in the middle bedroom that everybody would share. In the bow or the front of the boat is the common area, which is essentially the galley and a dinette, which is a table. Fun fact, the table will drop down into a bed for an additional person or maybe a couple of kids, depending on whether or not you want to take a couple kids on a vacation. The way bow of the boat, I call it the breakfast nook, but it's a seating area. It's also an easy exit area. It's also a great place to eat and get some fresh air. And docking and locking, you can hang off the side and still have the safety of holding on to something solid when you're docking and locking in the bow of the boat. We brought along some flotation devices which are actually Coast Guard approved, but you can also sit on them. While we were underway, we sat on the devices to use them as seat cushions, But you can also throw them in the water if somebody fell in the water for a man overboard type situation or person overboard, and they can grab onto it so they don't get pulled down. We also twist-tied plumbing noodles, or basically plumbing pipe insulation, to the back rail just to add a little padding from behind us. You know, in business and in planning, people always talk about their why, their big why, and there are little whys too. So why would somebody want to do a trip like this? What's amazing about a trip like this is that people could have completely opposite whys. One person might want to sleep in, and somebody else might want to just see how far they can go and just push the boundaries of how long they can stay on the waterway safely. You've done your homework, you've done your planning. It's time for the trip. Enjoy yourself, soak it in. It's going to just all flash back to you about the cities that you read about and the towns and the places you want to stop and certain museums and certain restaurants. Do it. Actually experience what you were staring at on screen and on paper. Enjoy yourself. Along the way, you're going to run into all sorts of towns. The towns that you've been researching all along are going to come to life. They're going to animate and become real. And hopefully your research was authentic enough that you know what you want to do and when you need to get back on the boat. Certain towns know, because they're right up against the canal, that they want to attract boaters of all sorts. And so they have showers and they have electricity and amenities and pump out stations and certain marinas and gas stations. Some towns charge, other towns don't charge. The charges are minimal. It's the most we paid was $17 in one town. The rest were free. You know, you can watch videos about the Grand Canyon and documentaries, but it's just not the same as actually going to the Grand Canyon. And it's the same with the Erie Canal. Experience it for yourself. Our photos have a lot more meaning from when we took it and why we took it. Take your own photos, create your own memories. I can't stress this enough. When you're done and you have all these videos of you going through locks and going under lift bridges, please, please, please don't put the videos on YouTube in real time. Speed it up, speed it up. Nobody wants to experience real time. Maybe when you're there it's exciting, but not on YouTube.